This is Dr. Steve Chaney, and today I'd like to share the science behind Shaklee's 180 turnaround program. You know, if you're like most people listening to this video, you've probably tried dozens of diets in the past, and you've already realized that the problem isn't in losing the weight, the problem is keeping it off. And you know, there's so many diet books out there that promise one simple solution. If there was one food we'd stop eating or one magic food we would include in our diet, we would just lose weight. Well, let me share the one diet book I actually recommend. It's something called The Weight of the Nation by John Hoffman and Dr. Judith Salerno. But you see, this isn't any diet book. This was a diet book put together in collaboration with the Institute of Medicine, the Center for Disease Control, the National Institutes of Health, and then there were videos produced of this in collaboration with HBO. This really represents the best consensus of the top weight loss experts in the country. And, you know, they said something that I've been saying for a long time, but sometimes you have to hear it from, somebody else before you really believe it. And so here's the quote. First, we blamed fat, and low-fat diets didn't work. Then we blamed carbs, eggs, red meat, dairy, white flour, sugar, juices, sodas, high fructose corn syrup, and partially hydrogenated fats. And, you've probably heard of all of these, and there are websites out there, there are diet books that'll tell you if you just avoided these things, you wouldn't gain weight. Well, let's look at the rest of their quote. And this is really based on, lots of scientific studies. One by one, we replaced the evil foods du jour and watched our collective waistlines grow. You see, there isn't just one simple solution that's going to magically make those pounds melt off. So if we really look at the science behind this, there are three factors that we have to keep into account. One is metabolism. We have to keep those metabolic fires burning high because if our metabolic rate is high, we burn off calories 24 hours a day, even when we're sleeping. And then we have to prevent loss of muscle mass. On most diets, we lose muscle mass. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But we also tend to lose muscle mass as we get older. And finally, there's the lifestyle change. You've heard the quote before that diets never work, or at least they never work long term. Lifestyle change does. So if you're just on a diet and then you're going to go back to eating the way you ate before, living the way you lived before, that weight's going to come back. So you've heard this from experts before. We really need to change our lifestyle. So let's look at these three factors in more detail. Let's look at metabolism, for example. And again, if I go back to that book, The Weight of the Nation, they really put that in perspective. And what they're really talking about is our bodies were designed to store fat in times of plenty and to retain that fat in times of fasting. Our bodies were designed for Paleolithic times when we might catch a saber-toothed tiger or we might catch a gazelle and we would feast. We would be in times of plenty. And our bodies needed to store as much energy as they could to take care of those times of fasting. It might be days or weeks before we caught the next saber-toothed tiger or the next gazelle. So we stored as much fat as possible. You see, we have very little ability to store protein as a source of energy. We have a limited ability to store carbohydrate as a store of energy, but we have unlimited ability to store fat as a source of energy. So in those times of plenty, when we are fasting, when we're feasting, then our body stores as much fat as possible. And then because our bodies never know how long it's going to be until we get that next gazelle or that next saber-toothed tiger, our bodies are designed to retain that fat as long as possible in times of fasting. So when we decrease our caloric intake significantly, our bodies go into a mode in which they retain the fat. So basically what they concluded is our bodies were designed for one world, but we live in a totally new world today. If you look at those videos, there's food like that in fast food restaurants in just about every corner of every city in the country, and in every food court in every mall in the country. And thinking about exercise, that picture on the right says it all, but we're just not getting the exercise that we should be getting. So let's look at this in a little bit more detail. Let's focus first on this metabolism. So what happens what happens when we decrease our caloric intake. If we decrease our caloric intake by just a little bit, it's okay. But anytime we decrease our caloric intake significantly, our bodies sense a fast coming on. It says, we don't know when that next cheetah is going to come along, so we better decrease the metabolic rate so we'll retain as much fat as possible. We won't burn off our fat too rapidly. That's what we call the famine response. So what do you do? What's the answer to that? Well, how do you prevent that decrease in metabolism? Well, the answer is very simple. You've heard it before from weight loss experts, and that is you want to limit weight loss to no more than 1 or 2 pounds of weight per week. So my recommendation to you is you want to avoid any diet that promises 5 to 10 pounds of weight loss per week or more. And that's the hard thing. Because there's so many diets out there that give you exactly that kind of promise. That's almost been the expectation. Most people expect that they should be losing weight that rapidly. Well, the problem is, if you lose weight that rapidly, the famine response is going to kick in, your metabolic rate's going to decrease, and you're going to have trouble keeping that weight off because you're going to be storing all of the fat. So it goes back to what experts said, limit your weight loss to 1 to 2 pounds per week. And if anybody offers you a diet with significantly greater weight loss, not only avoid it, just run in the other direction. Now let's look at that loss of muscle mass. Basically what happens is, again, remember that fasting response. Our bodies are designed to store fat, to retain that fat store as long as possible. So when we're between meals, and particularly if we're between meals for any extended period of time, we lose weight from lean muscle. We try and retain the fat. And that's going to reduce our metabolic rate even more. I'll show you the numbers in just a minute, but that's because muscle burns off calories a lot faster than fat. So let's look at that in detail. On most any diet out there, 12 pounds of weight loss is going to result in 5 pounds of muscle loss. Now that's important because each pound of muscle burns 50 calories per day, whereas a pound of fat burns a measly 2 calories per day. So a little bit of higher math tells you if you've lost 5 pounds of muscle, your metabolic rate has decreased by 250 calories per day. So just think about that. Once you've lost 12 pounds in a typical diet, now you're going to have to start eating 250 calories per day less than when you started on the diet if you want to keep losing weight at the same rate that you were losing it at the beginning. So now you understand why you reach that weight loss plateau. And the problem is that when we reach that weight loss plateau, we get discouraged. We fall off the diet and we start to increase our caloric intake again. We start eating the way we used to be eating. But the problem is that we don't regain the weight from the muscle. Remember, in times of the feasting, when we're in the midst of plenty, our bodies are designed to store fat. They're not designed to store muscle. So we regain the weight from fat, but our metabolic rate remains low, and therefore we not only regain the weight we lost before, often we regain more weight. So again, putting that in perspective, once you get discouraged, now you're going to have to eat 250 calories less to keep from regaining all the weight you had before and even more. And that's the dreaded yo-yo diet phenomenon. So preserving muscle mass is the key to keeping your metabolic rate high without dangerous herbs or stimulants. And that's where the Shaklee 180 turnaround plan comes in. The Shaklee 180 turnaround plan is based on groundbreaking research by Dr. Lehman at the University of Illinois. He has 4 published clinical studies with over 250 participants, and what he showed was a high-protein diet, one that provided about 40% carbs, 30% fat, 30% protein. So that's a moderate intake of carbohydrate and fat, and by the way, this is healthy carbohydrates and healthy fats, and it's about twice as much protein as the average American is consuming on a daily basis. But it's not just the high protein. What he also found is if you needed to add an extra amount of leucine, 10 to 12 grams of leucine a day. Now, leucine is it's an essential amino acid, but it's a very special essential amino acid. Leucine specifically stimulates muscle cells to make protein, and protein is what gives the muscles strength and bulk. So that combination of a high-protein diet and the added leucine preserves muscle mass when you lose weight. And that's what Dr. Lehman showed in his published clinical studies. What Shackley did is to take that research and use it to design their meal replacement products, their 180 smoothie mix and their meal in a bar. These products both provide 24 grams of protein, but also blended with the added leucine. And that's important because now you've got both the protein and leucine you need to retain the muscle mass. Now, it's also got 6 grams of fiber. That gives it a low glycemic index. That keeps your blood sugar levels constant, helps prevent the mood swings, helps prevent the food cravings. But it also means it's a perfect food for diabetics. And many people who are overweight are either diabetic or pre-diabetic. And as you would expect from Shackley, it's 100% natural. No artificial colors, no artificial flavors, no artificial sweeteners. Now, like everything else, Shackley has the clinical proof that their products work. Yes, it was based on research that somebody else did that showed the concept work, but then Shackley goes out and actually tests their products. So they did a study with the Shackley 180 smoothie mix alone, and this was done without additional exercise. So they had a group of people using the 180 smoothie mix twice a day. This was a weight loss program, and the weight loss program was for 12 weeks. They lost an average of 18 pounds. That's right in the midst of that magical 1 to 2 pounds of weight loss per week that you really want to strive for, right in the middle of that. And these are the results. The black line shows the 7 pounds of muscle mass that you would have lost on any other diet out there. The yellow line shows the people that were using the Shackley 180 smoothie mix. Because of that extra protein and added leucine, they retained 100% of their muscle mass. And it gets even better when you combine it with exercise. So this was a study of adults 55 years old and older who were enrolled in an exercise program at a local YMCA. It was 3 times a week, 45 minutes, a mixture of aerobic and weight training exercise. It was a supervised exercise program. And the group that's shown there with the gray bars were the ones that just did the exercise. The blue bars were using the smoothie mix, using the shake after each workout. As you can see, if you look in the center, there was a greater increase in lean muscle mass when you added the smoothie mix to the workouts. Actually, a 33% greater increase. But if you look at the left and the right, you can see there was a significantly greater weight loss and body fat loss. So these are the clinical studies that show that it works. What Shackley's done then is put together the 180 turnaround kit with all of the products you really need for the program. So you've got the smoothie mix, you've got the meal in the bar, you've got the meal replacement products, but you've also got the healthy snacks, you've got the snack bar, you've got the energizing tea because most people like a little pick-me-up and you don't want to get a lot of calories with that pick-me-up. And then a metabolic booster that also helps to increase your metabolic rate by up to 30%. And that's because a lot of people, if you've been overweight for a long time, you've probably lost significant muscle mass over the time, and therefore you need to kick up that metabolic rate just a bit. So this is an ideal program for people who want to lose weight, but it's also the ideal program for people who want to keep that weight off long term. And I'm going to talk more about that in just a minute. But this is a program that's clinically proven to maintain lean muscle mass and therefore keep the metabolic rate high when you're losing weight. But it also includes a lifestyle change program for long-term maintenance. This is the keeping the weight off part of it. It's $3.99. It's a $3.95 retail value for only $269.95. That's $9 a day, and it really comes to less than $3 per meal. when you include the fact you've got 2 meals, you've got your snacks, you've got your caffeinated beverage, and you've got a metabolic booster thrown in. So it's a complete package. But the really nice thing is the value proposition that Shaklee's added. If you refer 3 people who get on that same program, you get your products for free. But let's come to solution number 3, the lifestyle, because that's the other really important part of it. If you just affected the metabolism, that would help people lose weight more effectively, and it would help people maintain that weight loss. But if you didn't change your lifestyle, if you didn't make this a permanent way of how you lived, that weight will gradually come back on. So what Shaklee's done is they've made it very easy to track your calories, your exercise, and your weight loss. And, if you've ever been involved in weight loss programs before, you know that tracking those things is really essential to successfully losing the weight, but it's also essential to learning how to keep that weight off. So what Shaklee's done is they've put together a phone app, a dedicated website that makes it simple. If you've done this sort of thing before, it can be kind of difficult to track your calories. Well, with that phone app, you just take a picture of the foods you ate. It automatically calculates your calories. But the other thing I really like about this, because it's so easy to procrastinate, it's so easy to put off that tracking, that what Shaklee does is they have weekly rewards for tracking. They just keep track of how many times you use your app or you use your online site to track those sorts of things. And based on that, you're entered into weekly drawings. There are lots of weekly prizes. So you've got a good chance to win if you really do what you're supposed to do. And these are nice gifts. These are things like exercise outfits, gift certificates, weekly rewards for doing what you're supposed to do. But, that's not the whole part of their lifestyle program. They have weekly lifestyle change emails. So once a week, you'll get an email with a little video clip, some instructions, things to help you change your life. There's online support groups, access to a registered dietitian. And, if you've got significant weight to lose, sometimes you need that little bit of extra motivation. So they have some really big rewards if you lose significant amount of weight and you keep it off. And those rewards are quarterly trips to places like Paris and New York and London for fashion makeover and photo shoot. So those are the really, really fun things to look for to give you that extra bit of motivation. And finally, once you've lost the weight, and you've learned how to make the lifestyle changes, there's also a lean and healthy maintenance program that you can go on that'll really help you stay lean and stay healthy. So if we're going to sum it all up, you've got great natural products powered by leucine to help you burn the fat, not the muscle. You've got that daily support, digital, social, mobile, community support, and that helps you achieve success every day, provides the motivation, provides the support to help you achieve that success every day. And then those regular rewards, some of them big, some of them small, that lets you win while you lose the weight. The 180 turnaround program really is unique. It is designed to help you lose the weight and keep it off. Because it's designed to only give you 1 to 2 pounds of weight loss per week, you're going to avoid the famine response. And it's clinically proven to retain your muscle mass. That's the protein content of the diet and the leucine content of the diet. Those two things together keep your metabolic rate high without having to use dangerous herbs or stimulants. But more importantly, it teaches you permanent lifestyle change. And then for maintenance, Shaklee has the Lean and Healthy program, which is clinically proven to keep you lean and clinically proven to make you healthier. If you want to learn more about that, I have a video on the science behind the Lean and Healthy program. Thank you for joining me.